Yo, what is up, everyone? It is Jack OATz to go. You either know or you don't. We gotta talk about this chapter, but before I do want to say sorry. If you follow me on Twitter, I said I was going to do a reaction to me reading the manga because I knew it was going to be a banger since it was going on break. I did it, and then I was editing it, and through the edit, I was like, oh, this is actually like, it's not going to go over too well. It's kind of boring. Don't know how to spice it up. And then I got to the end of the edit and I was gonna upload it, but then my computer crashed and I, of course, because I'm a fucking pleb, didn't save my progress, so all of it's gone. And I mean, I still have the video, but I mean, it wasn't that great to begin with, so I'd rather just do a review. So here it is.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Pull up, say what's the deal, bruh? See how I lose my cool any second if they don't hear us. Many people will fear us. Say when you look in the mirror, don't you compare us to anything, they get embarrassed. Ha, ha, woo. So many people be talking like they want the problems or something. I noticed that all of you polish and all of you people get punished. It's hard to keep food on your stomach, to all of the hustle keep running. That's hard to stay humble with nothing. We're off of the jungle, we're bugging. So let me come down all of a sudden. I told you that we keep it buzzing. Ha, woo. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Alright, before we do anything, same deal, like, subscribe, unlike, unsubscribe, don't ever subscribe, block me if you hate me. I don't know why you're here if you hate me, but you know the deal. Okay, so now that's all done, let's talk about chapter 258 of Black Clover. From start to finish, I love this chapter. There are a few things that did get under my skin, maybe like one thing that got under my skin. But it's the same thing that's been getting under my skin, and we'll go over it when we get to it. But starting from the first page, I'm just going to reiterate how much I love Dante's design. Like, I did not like the first design when he went 80%. Wasn't really feeling it. Because we're talking about, people possessed by demons and all that good stuff. It wasn't menacing at all. It just looked like he got a power up, and like it was okay looking, but I was expecting like menacing and like evilness and all that grimy stuff, and it was none of that. But since Dante's added his magic on top of it, it's just looking more and more gross, and I love it. Speaking on Dante's design, I think it's awesome how the devil's magic didn't make him look more demonic, but his magic made him look more demonic. And it kind of goes with his view on what a true human should be. He was saying true humans are lustful, vengeful, just outright evil beings to their core. It fits that his magic makes him look less human than Lucifero's does. So that's really cool how it ended up like that. I really love his design. But anyway, that was the first page. And then we get side by side of Austin Yami. And that'll never get old for me. I will post on Twitter 15 times a day a side-by-side of Austin Yami and just keep talking about how cool it is, because it's the most amazing thing in Black Clover right now. It's always been one of the more amazing things. Anytime Yami and Asa interact, it's always cool, it's always fun. But in this side-by-side, something even more special is happening, and it's just very subtle. And what that is them breathing in sync. It just means that they're in sync. And it's not even that they're just in sync from being like master pupil. As someone who's done martial arts and have studied and spectated martial arts, this is awesome to see, because swordsmen do use specific breathing styles, and not just swordsmen, but martial artists in general have to utilize breathing in a way so that the martial art that they're practicing is more efficient, because different movements require different breathing styles for you to be able to adjust and keep up with your own body. So with them breathing in sync, it really shows that their Asta does get his swordsmanship a lot from studying Yami, fighting alongside him, seeing him fight, all that good stuff. And their stance is the exact same. The only thing that's different are their swords. Even more so, like, their body types are very similar, so it makes sense that they fight in a similar fashion. And I really like that. You know, they were both inhaling the same, and then they exhaled the exact same at the same time. And then Yami's just like, Asta, stay in my tail. So they both charged in, and what we see is Yami cuts off Dante's arm. Yami's been tagging Dante this entire fight. Yami is outclassing Dante, and had it not been for regeneration, this dude would have been dead a long time ago. But then Asta is going in at the same speed. He's right by Yami, and Dante makes it a point to kick Asta out of the way. This just shows that Dante is prioritizing Asta, because I think he knows with this anti-magic on Asta's side, this could really neg his regeneration abilities and make this a losing battle for Dante. So he's prioritizing Asta over Yami, because like I said, they were going in at, if not the same, a very similar speed, where Yami was able to cut off Dante's arm, but he opted to kick Asta out of the way. And this makes sense, because Yami's dealt how many death blows to this dude? Around 2 or 3 at this point, and it's done nothing. And this kind of goes into another point. I don't want to get into a huge tangent right now, but this already shows that this devil-host relationship is probably the most beneficial relationships the devils can have. It's more beneficial at a point to have a host over being in full physical form. Because if it was a full-on devil who was on the other end of that sudden death thrust, they're done. You know, especially if it strikes their heart, they're absolutely done. That's an arcane attack of like one of the highest degrees. More, maybe not highest degrees, but very potent arcane attack. And it didn't do anything to Dante because he's not a devil, he's a human. So, I mean, it's, you know, give and take. I'm sure this is not anywhere near Lucifero's full power, but it's a lot of power still. I think the only reason why they're striving for full bodies is because what fun is it to not have a body? You know, you're going to be tagging around, you know, living vicariously through other mages and whatnot. That's not any fun. And that's the whole point for devils, is to wreak havoc themselves. They're the bane of humanity, and I doubt they even like the triad as they stand. So as beneficial as it is, it's probably not the ideal situation for the devil. But let's keep going through the chapter. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. So Yami and Asta are still going at it. Asta goes in for another attack, and this one was about to land, but instead Dante is just gone. It's just an after image of Dante. He dodges that attack, and he's only, again, doing this with Asta, and Asta can't catch him. Then we see Asta confronting the AMD. And I like the way he did it. The way he floated up to him. He's like, yo, are you seeing this shit? We're losing. I need your help. And, you know, he just Asta the way Asta is. He was not pulling any punches. He was not splicing words. He was just saying exactly what's on his mind and approaching the AMD like he was just anybody else. In this confrontation, he is giving the rundown, this whole spiel of, like, why he needs the extra power, you know, and why Yami is important to him, and all that good stuff about being Wizard King. And a devil heard him out the whole way. There was no interruption, no nothing. Which kind of leads into my point. I've never really thought the AMD was out to get Asta. Not fully, at least. I don't think the AMD is actually full-on malevolent. If I had to compare the AMD to another character, I would say we'd probably get someone more along the lines of like Stain from My Hero, where he doesn't exactly align with villains, like that's not his thing, but he definitely doesn't align with heroes, people that are being heroes for the wrong reason, the people that are actually not altruistic and true to themselves and the craft. He's probably more of an anti-hero, like a Deadpoolish character. And out of that entire spiel, a devil says, "All right, fine, I'll give it." There was no fight, there was no nothing, and this could serve for a few purposes. But he was just saying, "Well, I'll just need a part of your body." This is a devil's bargain. This brings up a lot of things. One of the things is a thought-provoking question, and which is why I love anime in general, especially some of the things that Black Clover has brought up. You know, if you've watched me before, I've mentioned it. I've studied philosophy and philosophers, and they bring up some solid points. And one of these points that I saw with Asta interacting with the devil is, how far are you willing to go to save something that you hold dear to you? So are you willing to throw your faith away just to keep something safe? And is that in and of itself right? It's not. But does that make the person right? Semantically, it doesn't. Especially with this particular thing. He's making a literal deal with a devil, which is taboo across all cultures. In any literature that you read, this is taboo. And the fact that Asta's doing it, he's doing it for a great purpose, and I'll keep saying it. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. That could be what we're seeing. One of the other points that this brings up goes right off of that, is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So, as of now, we have 3 different ways for a devil to get a body. We saw Zagrid with his plan that went from what would be just maybe a few months of planning to what had to be 500 years, because he was dealing with professionals. And then we see the Triad, who don't have their devils here now, but they have the power being siphoned from the underworld to them in the real world. How that happens is yet to be confirmed, but we'll kind of talk about it near the end of this. And then the third is what we see with Asta and the AMD, where the AMD is inside of the grimoire, and he asks Asta for his arm. Could it be that the AMD is slowly chipping away at Asta, so that when Asta gets more and more desperate for power, he's going to keep offering up parts of his body, which is something that Asta would do. Asta would give you the shirt off his back if it meant that you would stay warm. And we're seeing right now that he would give you an entire arm to keep you safe. So that means Asta's willing to put his life on the line for those he thinks are important to him. It could be that the AMD is banking on Asta doing this. And if that's the case, then he's about 15% of the way done. All he needs is the rest of the legs, his torso, his head, and it'll be the full-on AMD. With that said, we have 3 different ways to get a body. Now we have potentially 4 different possessions, which I've talked about already. Now, why I say potential 4 is because with this chapter, we see that there's an entire body part given to the AMD. Now, with the AMD giving his arm, Asta's going to get a lot more power. We see Vonica with the eye. When her eye patch is gone, it's half Magicula's consciousness. Now, she didn't take on any of Magicula's real traits outside of the white hair. And yes, she had horns, she had the tail, she got wings. But those are all standard things that you can do without offering up any part of your body. And we see that with Asta. We see it with the Triad. Those are just standard things. But the white hair would have had to have been Magicula's. But that was the only real physical trait. And it wasn't really Magicula like there. It was just a conscious manifestation. I don't even know how you would want to explain that. But it wasn't like a partial possession like we see with Asta. And so it just makes all of this really hard to draw a solid conclusion on like how do devils operate, how do they get bodies, because it looks like there's multiple different ways to get a body and go through all of this BS. Like it's crazy. I've definitely seen people theorizing that the Triad have offered something of their own to the devils that they're sharing the power with. Now that could definitely be true, and maybe Vonica gave her eye to Magicula, but Vonica's possession in and of itself was also just very special. We haven't seen a devil come into full consciousness outside of her. With these text bubbles that we see with Lucifero and Dante talking, I only take that as the tone of Lucifer coming out and not so much of Lucifero talking. It's like if you've ever watched The Possession of Emily Rose, where all the devils possessing her are talking, so it's like 6 layers of voices. I assume that's what those text bubbles are sounding like. So it's a mixture of Dante and Lucifero's tones, saying what Dante is thinking and putting out there. We have not seen what happened with Vonica and Magicula, but we've also not seen this partial possession that we see with Asta. Now, something I just thought of that I think would be interesting is it seems as though the way the AMD asked for the arm, I wonder if it's going to be more of like a trade spot sort of deal, where we have the AMD residing in the grimoire that Asta's using. That arm has to go somewhere. It's a trade. So it's not like, okay, you lop off your arm, here's my arm. Like, Asta's arm has to go somewhere. So I'm assuming the arm that we see is actually the AMD's real arm, if he were to be manifested. So Asta's arm would in turn be maybe on the AMD himself, or somehow stored in there somehow. I don't know. By the end, I would assume Asta's entire body would end up being switched and the AMD being fully there. So now Asta's kind of trapped in whatever limbo the AMD is in right now. Really not sure about his situation. I would say Vonica and Asta are 2 different kinds of possessions. Then you have the other triad, Dante and Xenon, or Zeno. I forget which one it is. Where they're only siphoning power. They're not really possessed because their demons aren't here and now. Then you have Zagrid, who was possessing that noble in his just pure negative mana form before he went to go exterminate the elves. So that's 4, which means hopefully this arc is going to explain like exactly how and why certain things were able to happen, and yeah, we'll see. But I think the arms design looks dope. What it reminds me of is Chad from Bleach and Nero from Devil May Cry. It looks more like Nero's from Devil May Cry, and I think it's really cool. I don't know what that arm is going to do. I put out a poll on my Twitter. It's looking like a lot of people are thinking it's going to be a separate special ability, and I hope it is. It would just be weird to have like this arm and it just gives you an amp and you're just, doing what you've been normally doing, but like bigger. I hope it's a special new ability involving anti-magic, of course, but I think it's going to allow him to do some other things. And it would be interesting just to see what those other things would be. I have no ideas as to what it could be. I know I did look at it initially, and you see that it has like these vein-ish structures inside of it where it's not hardened and blackened like the rest of it. And I had originally thought like, okay, what if somehow like different parts of the AMD kind of work like the swords, where you have the demon, I keep forgetting the names, demon dweller sword that you can bat away magic. Well, you could, but it wouldn't be as potent as a demon slayer sword because it's not as big. But you can slice through magic, but you can also take magic from the things around you, given that they have consent. But him being a demon, you wouldn't need that consent because you're a devil. And I think that's how, if you ever played the Devil May Cry series, there are different quirks that a demon has that an angel doesn't. And, where the angels might be overpowered, demons have, these leeways because they don't have to follow, these rules. They're demons. They're demons. I don't know how many times I gotta say it. They're demons. Where the demon dweller sword, you would have to get consent. The demon dweller hand, if you will, doesn't need consent. And it can just sap the mana from you and use it for himself. That would be pretty interesting. Would it be redundant? Yes, but it would also make him kind of overpowered if, he really needed to use it. So we'll see. I'm really interested to see where that goes. But like I said, I was going to tell you the one thing that's been pissing me off this entire time, and since we're on the topic of swords, it's the perfect time. Asta's still using the wrong sword. Now, I have nothing against the sword. Don't get me wrong. It's a great sword. Awesome sword. But it's not the best one in his arsenal. Not until he's able to use it to the extent that his Berserk form was able to use it. And yes, Black Divider is an amazing, amazing spell. But it's just too narrow of an attack range for it to be efficient. Yes, he expanded it and cut down a whole base, sure. But the base was big, the attack was like this narrow. Like, you can dodge that. Anybody can dodge that. So like I said, until he gets it on a level by himself to where his Berserk form he's using it, where he was able to extend the reach of the anti-magic fluidly, it's not his best sword. Right now, as it stands, his best swords are definitely going to be the Demon Dweller and Demon Annihilator sword. The Demon Dweller sword, I don't know why he didn't pick that one up right now to begin with. Because Asta was barely able to move himself. He's working on sheer willpower just because Yami called out to him. Other than that, he wasn't able to do a simple push-up. And now he's trying to move with this giant sword. It's not the smartest move. And he's even said it in the dungeon where he found the Demon Dweller sword. He was like, this one's way lighter. It functions the same as the Demon Slayer, but it also has the added element of being able to sap someone's mana that consents to it and use it to his advantage. This is a great sword to use. And it's not like he's out here battling Dante, batting magic away with the broadside of Demon Slayer. That's just not how it goes. In fact, he sliced the Singularity at the end of this chapter, which he could have easily done with the Demon Dweller sword. It's much easier to move, and it's less of a strain on his body, so I don't know why that wasn't the first choice. Anyway, number one sword right now should be the Demon Dweller sword. Yes, you guessed it. I've been bitching about it the entire time. So, or the Demon Destroyer sword, Demon Annihilator, whichever translation you like better. That one, I mean, implies that it probably does well against demons. Not to mention, it dispels curses and afflictions and all that stuff. Like, why is that not your first choice? I have so many problems with him not just picking up that sword more often. We saw him use it when he got poisoned by that Spade member. He had no problems using it then. That was like the first sword he thought of. But then we find out some of his close friends, Noel, Nozel, Henry, Laura Pachica, are all cursed. Not going to use the sword. I mean, we're not going to try it. He dispelled Dark Elf Patri. That's a huge feat. That tells us that he can probably do this to one of the Triad members to make the power that they're siphoning go back to the underworld so that they're fighting just the mage as they are without the devil power, which would be a massive help, because if he did that and Yami dealt another blow like he did to Dante before he went all crazy, Dante's effectively dead and there's no more siphoning power from Lucifero. I just don't get the fascination with the Demon Slayer sword right now. It's a much better tool to ride on for this battle specifically, but it's not the tool to be fighting with. He wasn't able to land a blow on Dante, even in its best form when he was in Berserk. I mean, why still use it? I just don't get it. And hopefully he realizes that. I don't know, but with this new arm, it's probably a lot lighter to chug around, so he'll probably stick to it, and it's kind of his trademark. But that's really all I got. You know, I don't want to sound like a hater on the last part, but if you've been sticking with me on the channel, you've already known, like, this is not the preferred sword to me. And that's just my opinion. We're going to be reading the same thing, and we're going to be having different takes on it, because we're different people. So it's whatever. You don't have to agree with me either. So you guys let me know what you thought about this chapter in the comment section below. This chapter was fire. It was flames. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you liked it. Like it. Unlike it if you didn't. Don't ever follow. Block me if you feel the need to. I've got a poll on my Twitter right now. Since Black Clover is on break next week, and we have a whole month until the next Boruto, And then I'm not all the way caught up on MHA yet, getting close. I want to know what content you would like to see from me. I have 4 options, well, kind of 3, but 4 options on my Twitter. So if you have one, go there, vote, so I know what you'd like to see, and I'll prioritize that video. Otherwise, they're all going to be getting put on the channel. But I'd like to see which ones you'd like to see first and foremost. Or put in the comment section below. Let me know. It's been Jackos the Goat. Thank you guys for tuning in. You either know or you don't.